Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be looking at using Kaleidoscope soaps in a slightly different way. Now if you're like me and you've tried the Kaleidoscope soap in a column mould, you'll end up with some bits and pieces and you think, what can I do with them? Well, here's a way of using those bits up. So I've got some offcuts of my Kaleidoscope soap here. And all I'm doing is I'm cutting these pieces into quarters. So it's essentially 1/4 of a circle. And we're going to pop these into a mould and then do a design around them. It's a really nice way of being able to use up soaps that maybe you don't quite know what to do with or you've got hanging around, and gives you something different to do with them. So once you've got that laid into the mould, and I'll show you that in a little bit, we're just going to make up a very simple recipe here. This is just a standard recipe that I use, and we're going to keep it very, very neat and tidy. And you'll see here, I'm just going to redo this again for you. I've taken those quarters and I've just popped them together. So this is not one whole piece. This is just some kind of offcuts that I've got. So you can see them there, and they're just in pieces. I've used a little bit of distilled water in between each section in order to get them to stick together. Give them a good squeeze, and that will make that kind of embed essentially. And then we're just going to pop that in one corner of our mould. So it goes into the mould like that, and we just sit it down into the corner, and that means we've got this really nice kind of corner of a soap with a bit of interest. Now we're going to pour along this side, and we're going to do a gradient pour on an angle. So essentially what we're going to do is, normally the gradient pour you'd go probably from light to dark, but in this one we're actually going to go from dark to light, so it's going to get lighter as we move towards the top. So I'm just going to bring in my angler here. And I have quite small mould, so I just need to use these pieces of perspex in order to get it to kind of raise up a little bit. And I'm going to pop that into our mould on an angle, and I'll just give this an adjust to make sure that it's at the right angle. Now I'm just using my old planer here to give me a little bit of height on there, just for this pour, and then we're going to crack on with our batter. Now in my solution here I've actually got rose petals. Now rose petals will act a little bit like silk, but they're obviously a vegetarian or vegan version that you can use to go into your soap. So all I've done is I've made my lye solution up in exactly the same way as you would normally make it, with the same amount of water, same amount of lye, and then I've just added maybe like a handful of rose petals into that. And I've just basically allowed them to kind of dissolve into the lye. And then into my solution there, I'm going with a kind of rain petrichor kind of fragrance into here. So we've got this really nice kind of light fragrance with the kind of rose stuff as well. So you'll notice that this has gone really dark, and the rose petals are going to cause that colour, but it does come out in the final soap. So when you see the final soap, you'll see that the white soap is actually white, and that is its natural colour. I have added no additional colourants to that. That's the natural colour it becomes. So you do need to strain this, because there are various kind of bits within the rose petals that just will not melt down in the lye solution. But give it a good squeeze, and you'll notice that most of that will go through, and you just get this really lovely silky feel from the rose petals that you don't necessarily get from any other material apart from banana skin. Banana skin is an awesome material for putting into soaps, as are rose petals. So I'm just going to make sure that I get every ounce of my lye out, because I just want to make sure that we're going to saponify as much of this oil as we can. You are going to lose a tiny bit of lye, but it's not going to be anything really to worry about. And you are going to get a full saponification with this, so don't worry about that one. So you can see that's made a really dark colour at the bottom, and you will get a discoloration on this soap initially, but that discoloration will eventually fade. So what I'm going to do here is just get this stick blended for a couple of pulses, and you see I've got a really bright orange colour now. You would expect that colour to come through at the final hurdle, but it doesn't. So I'm bringing in my mould here, and I've got my kaleidoscope in the corner there, and we're just going to do a very simple ombre. Ombre, don't forget, is going from colour, is going from tone to tone, so we're going from a dark tone to a light tone. If you want to go from colour to colour, that is a gradient, but they're interchangeable, so you don't really need to worry too much about them. So we're going to go from this really nice deep blue-grey right through to a light blue-grey, and I'll speed through the rest of this. You can see exactly how the gradient happens, but it's how you would do any other gradient. And I'll just pop some music to it so you can see this happen in a sped up time. Now, when you're doing a gradient pour, it's really important that you do two things. The first one is you always pour on the same side, never alternate the sides, because then your gradient won't look right. And also, when you move your mould, try and do it as gently as possible, because you want to try and avoid shifting everything too much. Otherwise, it'll look quite steppy. Now, I did want to go for quite a blocky look on this, which is why I'm using quite large quantities on each step. But you do need to be quite careful when doing this, that you don't try and pour on either side and you don't move it too much. So getting down to the last little bit here, and I'm just going to make sure I pour into that final side. And you can see how the colour here is really quite dark. Don't worry, it is going to lighten. When you see the final soap, which you should have seen in the thumbnail, you can see that it has lightened quite considerably. So what we'll do is we're going to have a little look at the cut now, and I'll show you the final bar. So here's the final cut, and as you can see, we've got a white colour, not an orange colour, and we've got that beautiful kaleidoscope in the corner there. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and allows me to make more videos and tutorials for all of you. When you subscribe, don't forget to click the bell icon if you'd like to get notified when a new video is uploaded. And thanks a lot, Soapsters. I'll see you again next time.